Hi, thanks for watching. This is our second video in our series on building an income tracking dashboard. So just to recap, this is what we're going to be working on building here. And in the last episode, we built this. This is our master income tracking. All of our income information goes into here. So in this video, we are going to build a table that pulls data from here based on a date range that we set. So before we get started, I want to just do one thing on this sheet. I want the start of my week to be highlighted in red. Now my week starts on Wednesday, so I'm going to select the entire range. That'll cover all the dates in here and beyond. And what I want to do is I want to come up here to conditional formatting. Now I want to add a new rule. So I want anything that is cell that is equal to Wednesday to be formatted in red. So I'm going to format only cells that contain. I want to set that to cell values. This I want to be equal to, and then what I want to do is I want to type equals, open quotations, Wednesday, close quotations, and make sure you put that equal sign here or it will not work. So I want it to be red. And now you can see all of my entries that are Wednesday is highlighted red. So I can scroll through and I can easily see when my week begins. So now that we have that done, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to have a new sheet here. Click over to there. So let's come up here and I want to give this cell a name. Call it start. Call this one end. And we'll call this one count. And then over here next to them, I want to name this reference so I can call on it later. And that'll save us some typing and it'll give us absolute references as well. So these references, if I use those names when I'm typing in a function and I copy it over to another cell, it won't move. It'll always reference count or end or start or whatever I've named the cell. So what I want to put here is I want to put all of our names for our columns. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to copy these. And then I want to paste them in here. And I want to paste values. Oh, I picked up all column 1, 2. Yeah, we'll just delete that one. And let's go ahead and make them bold so they show up. So up here, I'm going to want to have the start date and then our end date. So since these are going to be dates, let's go ahead and format them as dates. So our start date for right now, we'll just set it to the first day of our data. And then we want to pull a week. So we will set this cell equal to this value. And then we want to add 6 days to get 7 days. So here we want to get a count of how many records fall within this range. So we're going to use a COUNTIFs function here. COUNTIFs. Oh, forgot the equal sign. COUNTIFs. And we want to give it a range. So we're going to give it all of this. All of the date information, which is actually right there. So the A column. So we need to go in here and we need to type the name of the sheet. Make sure you put your exclamation point there, and we want absolute references. So we want to have a $sign. And our information starts on the second row. And we want to go through 1,000. So it'll pull up to 1,000 rows. So that's our criteria range. So we need to give it our criteria. So that needs to be in quotation marks. So greater than or equal to. Then we need to join it. So we're going to use the AND operator. And we're going to join it to start. So now we need to give it another criteria range, which is going to be the same range, income, A2 through A1000. And now it wants the criteria. So this time it's going to be less than or equal to and end. So it'll pull 14 records that are between these dates, including these dates, which is what we want. We're pulling a week, 7 days, 2 shifts a day, 14. Okay, so now we're ready to start building our function. We're going to come down here to the first entry under date, and we're going to use a lookup function for this. What we're going to use is index. So index is going to ask for an array. Our array is going to be the first column where our date is of this sheet, starting from the first entry, not including the header. So we're going to start at A2, and we're going to go through, we'll just go through A1000. That'll cover more than a year. Now you see here, this is working on this sheet, and we need to be in our income sheet. So we need to go over here and type income, the name of the sheet, followed by an exclamation point. So that's going to select that whole range from the other sheet. So now it's going to ask for a row number, and we're going to have to build this, and we're going to have to build this using a small function. And small looks for an array as an argument, and it will return the kth argument. So if you set it to the array and then 2, it'll find the second smallest number. If you set it to 4, it'll find the fourth smallest, etc. So we're going to build that array with a couple of if statements. So if is going to be our logical test, and actually right here I see an error. So in this part right here, we do not want an absolute reference to the columns. We only want the reference to be absolute to the rows. Otherwise, when we copy this over, we're going to get the date all the way across. So here, we're going to use that same range, only this time we are going to use an absolute reference. And I think my caps lock is on. There we go. So A2 through A1000. And once again, I've got to type the sheet reference. So we need to give the logical test. So we're referencing that range. If this range is greater than or equal to our named range from earlier, start. You can see it right there. So that's our logical. Our value, if true, is going to be another if statement. Oops, helps if we put these in the right direction. So we're going to reference the same range. And this time it is going to be less than or equal to, and we're going to reference our end, which is our end date. Then what we want to do is we're going to want to throw that into a row function. In that row function, we're going to reference that range again. Then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to subtract another row function. And this time we only want to reference the first cell from before. So we're going to go income. And we just want to reference that A2 cell. Then we're going to want to add 1 back to it, just so we don't get a 0 result. Close parentheses, to get out of that last if, comma, and that'll give us our k. So for k, what we want to return, we want to use a rows function. Very important, rows, multiple, not a row, or it'll copy the same row down all the way. So in here, we want to reference the sheet we're actually on. So we want to do A, and our data starts at 5. So we want to make sure that's a 5. And we're going to reference through a 5. A 5. Close out our parentheses until they turn black. Okay, that looks good. So this is an array function, so simply entering enter will not work. So what we need to do to tell Excel that this is an array function is we need to hold down Control, Shift, and hit enter. So we see we've got our date right here. So let's copy it across. And it looks good so far, but we get some weird data here. And we fix that. We want to make sure we fill without formatting. Now everything looks correct. So let's drag it down and see if we're still getting correct information. So it starts at the 14th. It ends with the PM of the 20th. So we're pulling 14 records. We have all this down here. So we could just, since we know we're always going to pull a week, we could fix it like that. But what if we decided we wanted to do 2 weeks? So let's pull that back down. We want to get rid of this. And we can fix that right now. So let's go back out of this. Just pull it back to the first cell. And we're going to fix this with an if function. So we're going to go if, and then we want to feed it our rows right here. So if rows is greater than, we want to make it greater than, if it is greater than count, that cell we named earlier, right here. If it is greater than the count, what is our value if true? Well, if it's greater than the count, we don't want it to render on the page. So we want to blank, comma, our value if false, continue with the function. So let's hold Control, Shift, Enter again. Oops. Well, let's see what the correction is. And the problem was we'd forgotten to put a closing parentheses on there. Again, fill without formatting. So now if I pull down here, you can see I've selected all this, but it's only rendering dates that fall within that range. And what I can do with that is this. If I wanted to pull 2 weeks of data, right now I'm pulling a week by adding 6 days. So if I add 13, it will update and pull 2 weeks of data, which isn't what I want to do, but there it is. This is the sheet that's going to feed all of our data on our dashboards. It's very important that we get this correct. But that's it for this video. Oh, wait, nope, there's one more thing. We also want to make this into a table. So select it all. Go to Insert, Table. Selected the right range, yes. Has a header, yes. Make sure that's selected. So there we go. There it is. That's it for this video. The next video, we're going to start building some visualizations.